Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. This is the SOG FF-23 Nautical knife. I first reviewed this back on April 12th, 2014. The knife at that time cost about $36. It's no longer available. So 8 years later, the knife is no longer being made. Not a surprise to me. Well, technically, by it's no longer being made, I really mean right there, the SOG specialty knives and tools. You will not find it with this shield on it. You'll see one that will say West Marine, and then the blade will clearly be marked SOG and China. And often on eBay, it'll be listed as a West Marine SOG knife. This one, when it first came out, I questioned the $36 asking price for it, and that's mainly because at that time I had no idea what 6CR12 MOV steel is, and to be honest with you, I still do not know what 6CR12 MOV steel is. It was a steel used by SOG at some point in time. I'm assuming it's somewhere up there around a 440A or B, or maybe an AUS-6 or AUS-8, somewhere around there. So maybe like an AUS-7.2 and 440 AB. I have no idea. But it's one of those Chinese steels. It's definitely going to be better than your 3CR, but not as good as your 8CR. The closest steel out there now is a 6CR13 MOV. And I've read that some people do not consider that a steel for knives, but those same people say that 420 is not a steel for knives. What I do know is the 12 MOV, or CR12, refers to the amount of chromium in the blade, and that is quite a bit of chromium, which is a good thing for a knife being used around salt water. So there's a plus for that. The other thing that I kind of played down before was the fact that it has titanium liners. That definitely added to the price. I do not know if the West Marine SOGs have titanium liners. If you notice, these have a blue tint to that titanium. They're an anodized blue titanium liner on the knife, which gives it a little flash of color. The covers were described as glass reinforced nylon / G10. Basically, it's G10. I'm not sure why they did it that way, and they continue to do that with the ones made for West Marine. From what I understand, SOG makes the knives for West Marine. You'll see the West Marine logo instead of SOG. But really, I wanted one that said SOG, and when I bought this knife, it actually wasn't being made for West Marine. It was actually being made for SOG. So that's the other thing to consider with it. The other thing you notice here is you've got a little chamfering around the edges here for the G10, which makes it very comfortable to hold in the hand. You do have that texturing, so you do have a little bit of grippiness going on there. And all in all, it just really looks nice. It does look like a very nice cover on the knife. I'm not sure if I mentioned already, but those are torque screws and really nice rivets here, if they are rivets. But the pivot points here are really nice, and they're a little bit concave. And then you have the blade here, which is a half serrated blade, and that was one of the things that was actually drawing me to the knife. Now, the West Marine versions, you'll see that it'll still say SOG on there and China, and they have both a half serrated and a full serrated blade. But as far as I know, the SOG version of the knife only had the half serrated blade. What I really wanted was this knife, the Camillus Piranha, which has a half serrated blade. and I did not have one, and they were very difficult to find. The half serrated ones, you can usually find one that is fully serrated and one that is completely fine edge, but the half serrated ones were not made in the same numbers as the ones that had the half, or as the other two versions. So this was, I would not say uncommon, I would just say less common than the other two. And I've always liked the solid black handle with the bird's eye rivets. And this knife, as you can tell, has the solid handle with the black with the bird's eye rivets, no bolsters. And I actually do prefer this kind of knife, the full. I don't care as much for the ones with the bolsters. I like the ones that come this way, especially with the bird's eye rivets. Just something about it. At the time, there's a lot of things I kind of missed on the original review of this knife. I kind of played down the anodized titanium bolsters, and just focusing on the color aspect of it. That blue color was kind of nice, and it does add a little bit of bling to it, but there is more to it than that also. The titanium is not going to rust. It's going to work better for the pivot points and everything else. And actually, the action on this, I gotta say, it actually is better than most of the Camillus knives I have. Also, I kind of picked on the knife before because of the very small shackle key that is cut into the blade, and mentioned that it is more or less decorative. But I have actually broken a shackle using a key this small. It's not ideal, especially the placement of this, and I do know that mainly the reason it's here is just so you have a nail nick on both sides of the blade, which is actually a good thing. So beats having the nail nicks that you have on the Camillus knife, which is on only one side, and this blade is definitely harder to pull open. Now, a lot of people are going to like that harder open on this blade, but I got a feeling that most people will be happier with this one, and a little bit easier pull. This has a pull that's in that 9 family. This one is in the 6 or 7 family. So it's a much easier pull to open it. And you have to remember, you're not poking with this, you're not stabbing with this, you're pressing down and cutting, which is a good thing. I think some people would complain that you've got this hole cut all the way through the blade, so you've got a weak spot up here, so you're not going to be able to hammer on this blade. But really, you're not going to be hammering on this blade anyway, because it is it's a slip joint. You really shouldn't be hammering on it anyway. In any case, if you were to hit it with a wooden dowel back here, you're not going to hit the weak point here. And I doubt this steel is going to be weaker than the rope that you're cutting through. So seriously, I don't think that's a major issue. The Marlin spike opens up fairly easily. It does lock. Now this one has ever so slight bit of wobble in it. Nothing dramatic. I find wobble like that on many other Marlin spikes. Again, not a very sharp tip. Should not be a very sharp tip. My only issue with the Marlin spike is the placement of this. I'm so used to it going from there to about here, but this one goes all the way to here. And you have to press down there to break the Marlin spike free. And it is hard. You have to definitely press down hard all the way to the point where it hits the blade. So that lock could be a little easier. It might wear in a bit over time. I have not used this knife in a long time, simply because I'm not too crazy about the lock. Still not crazy about the lock, but it does work. My main issue with this part, though, is that when you have the blade open, if this gets in the way, it does not flop around. So it is definitely in the way of the blade, and you would definitely get a good, you could slam that right into or you could slam the blade right into it. So that's a problem with that. That is a minor detail, something that you would have to get used to. And I find that with some of the knives that are coming out of China, but most of them will block it there. And if you notice now, the blade, that's where it should stop. This one is by BC. Also, if you see on this one, that's where it stops. There's a reason why they had them stop here, and it's so that it's out of the way. It's out of the way of the blade. You're not going to have to worry about that getting in the way of your blade when it's closing. And that is the really the only downside of this knife, is that part there. Now, I was saying that, well, that's going to snag in your pocket and stuff like that. That's a bunch of BS. It's really not going to be an issue for the pocket or anything. What it is an issue for is right there. But the cool things about the knife are those are actual torque screws. I have not bothered to try and take it apart, but you might be able to take it apart. The rivets here are really nice, and it's like a concave disc in that place on both sides. And I'm wondering if this is actually running on a washer of some kind, as opposed to the liners being the pivot point. I wonder if there is a washer in there. I'm not going to take the knife apart to find out, but it is something that I might consider doing if I go ahead and pick up a West Marine version of this knife, which I might end up doing. All in all, my opinion of the knife has improved over time, and I'm really happy that I got it. One of the main reasons I'm happy that I got it, though, is that you just don't see the ones with the SOG specialty knives and tool shield on many of the Marlin spike knives out there. So this has definitely become a collector's item in the last 8 years or so. I'm not a person who collects a lot of SOG knives or anything. Matter of fact, this is the only SOG knife I have. I thought about picking up a SOG seal pup at one time, but I had so many other fixed blade knives that I like more that I just never bothered to pick it up. But for this one, I have such a wide variety of Marlin spike knives, and I like to collect Marlin spike knives, so I had to grab the SOG when I saw it. The other one I'm still looking to get eventually is like the Buck and a K-bar Marlin spike knife, but I'm not going to get them until the price is right. I know the prices continue to go up on those, but it's going to have to be in decent enough shape to begin with and at a low enough price before I bite on them. They are not $100 knives, though people keep spending money on them like they're $100, $150 knives. They are much more common than people think they are. This, though, even though it is a latecomer to the game of Marlin spike knives, there's just not a lot of them out there, unless you grab the ones that say West Marine. So yes, the knife does have a few minor flaws to it, but I think it was a well-made knife and well thought out knife. Okay, so how can I sum this up in under a minute? Well, it's the SOG FF-23. It became the West Marine SOG knives that you're seeing out there. This one has the blue anodized titanium liners, which is a plus. It has an FRN handle with a little bit of texture in there. So modern techniques or modern materials, but it's basically still just like the old Camillus Piranha, in that it really did not bring anything new to the design. It's still basically just the slip joint up here. It would have been nice to see a liner lock or some other locking mechanism for the main blade. And the lock for the Marlin spike is a little problematic, but otherwise it's a pretty cool knife. And well, you're just not going to find it anymore because SOG doesn't make it anymore, and they haven't made it in a long time. It was a one-off knife, and later on it became the West Marine SOG knife, which is slightly different than this one. So if you got one of these, you're fortunate. Well, I got one of them, so I'm kind of fortunate. And is it that much better than the Piranha? That's up to you to decide. Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Pious. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.